Hello guys, Lisa here, and let's do a take two on this one. Stop winter weight gain. I basically wanted to sort of touch base with you guys, see how you're going, because I know that winter is a time where you struggle. People struggle, and I want to get you past that because there's nothing nicer than skipping into spring rather than dragging yourself into spring, because that's what I want to do, because we sort of tend to get bogged down a little bit in winter, and so I want to get you past that. I want to decrease that stress. So my aim is to use this time for a bit of information, but for you to be reflecting as we go along. I'd love you to have pen and paper whilst you're listening, and to write down the things that speak to you, so the things that you go, "Ooh, yeah, I do that. I need to remind myself not to do that." And at the end, we're certainly going to be looking at a bit of planning. Because what I did find out from the bit of a webinar that I was able to get through and interact with last night was that by far motivation is actually the biggest killer to stopping winter weight gain, that people just get a little bit demotivated in winter. So that's a problem, and that's what this webinar is aiming to get you over and around. So I hope that you get to the end, because there is an offer at the end that's going to help you really kick this goal and get started and stop winter weight gain and get into spring really quite nicely. So we'll get moving along here. If you have any questions at the end of watching this, please just send me an email. So it's lisa@lisawren.com. Simple as that on the email. If you've got any questions, I'm very happy to get back to you. So why can't you get motivated? I think that the biggest issue is that we are self-fulfilling prophecies. Basically, whatever we say is going to be what happens. And so I've had a number of times where people have said to me, "Oh, everyone puts weight on in winter." So if that's what you're thinking, that everyone puts weight on in winter, then it actually means it's okay for you to as well. So what that kind of does, if we're starting off at about 1 o'clock on this cycle, and you're going, everyone puts weight on in winter, and so basically what you've done by that is given yourself permission to gain weight. You're pretty well giving yourself the green light. Go ahead and decrease accountability. So what we get then is we're moving around. So we go, everyone puts on weight in winter, so it's okay if I do. How could I expect to not do that when that's what everyone does, and I certainly always do. So automatically you are decreasing your accountability. And what that means is that you start thinking, it doesn't really matter if I don't go out and exercise. It doesn't really matter if I eat this pie. So basically we decrease accountability. And what that leads to is an increase in eating and a decrease in exercise. I wonder if you guys are actually nodding your head and going, yeah, that's actually what's happened to me here. And of course, the result of increasing eating and decreasing exercise is that you gain weight. And so there we go around and we go, oh, tick. Yep, I put weight on in this winter along with everybody else. So I think what you say to yourself is really, really important. And I would hope that you would use this webinar to say, stop. This is not what I want to do anymore. Everyone does not put on weight in winter. And in fact, I would like to stop myself putting weight on in winter right now, as of today. And what that actually does is start you thinking in a different way. So if all of a sudden you're saying, no, I'm not going to put weight on anymore, I'm going to stop this winter weight gain, then all of a sudden you haven't got permission to gain weight. You have actually built in a level of accountability for yourself saying, no, this is not what I want to do, and it's doable that you don't have to put on weight. So when you're saying, no, I'm drawing a line in the sand, that is not going to happen, all of a sudden you increase your accountability. You start saying, oh, it does matter. It does matter if I have a pie every day for lunch. It does matter if I'm not exercising. It has a consequence, and I don't want to gain weight. And so you are far more likely not to gain weight if you start off with that idea that, no, I'm not going to. Everyone else might, but I'm not. So basically everyone puts on weight because they all just give themselves permission. It is actually not something that physiological that happens. And I question people go, oh yeah, but the food is stodgier. But I actually question that. I go, well, you might have meat and salad in summer, but you can have meat and vegetables in winter, and they're not that much different. So in calorie wise, so it really, I think that we sort of have this picture in our head that we need to be warm and therefore we need food to warm us up. When really, I kind of think that is all just playing in to this vicious cycle of decreased accountability, basically. So let's try something different and go, well, you know what? If I'm a self-fulfilling prophecy, then I'm not doing this. I'm going to stop winter weight gain right now. I would encourage you to start thinking a bit differently. So that's the first important point, that I'm stopping. There's not going to be any more weight gain this winter. Now, here was the poll about your favourite excuse, and it was lack of time, lack of energy, thinking that winter's really not a great time to be looking after your health. But as I said earlier, when I polled the people on the webinar, they were talking about motivation and saying that motivation was the biggest killer. There was a bit of time and a bit of too cold, but motivation is the biggest killer and the biggest reason why you guys felt that you were gaining weight in winter. And we'll talk about motivation, and I hope that you'll start to get a little bit of a different view about what motivation actually means and is. So I think one of the big problems is that we actually expect ourselves to be perfect. And really, perfection is so overrated. This is a quote that I've put together. It's like, perfection is like trampolining on a cloud. You know, when you look out the window of a plane and you go, wow, they look so fluffy and adorable that I could be bouncing on those or lying back in those beautiful fluffy things. When in actual fact, the reality would suck a bit, because if you did try to do that, you'd obviously plummet to the earth and die a horrible death. So perfection is overrated. And I think when we're talking about diets, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the need to be perfect. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she said, yeah, look, I'm feeling like I'm in control. I'm feeling like I'm doing a whole lot better. But I actually had a small piece of cake, and we did have pizza one night for dinner. And it's like, and she was disappointed with that. And I said, well, I did too. I had a small piece of cake and pizza for dinner last week, but it's no big deal, because that is part of healthy eating. Any time that you are banning things that you like, banning things that make life easy, or banning things that make life pleasant, how do you think that is actually ever going to be maintained in the long term? So if you're feeling like, or ever hearing yourself saying, oh, I can't have that, or I mustn't do this, then this is about your demanding perfection. And perfection makes it really quite difficult to even start. Because if you thought you had to be perfect, then it's quite off-putting to even get going. So this is a big part of motivation. What are you actually expecting yourself to do? Because if you're expecting yourself to all of a sudden go from no exercise to a 7-day-a-week gym junkie, well, that's not really realistic, and it's no wonder you're not actually starting. So when we're going through and thinking about our plans, that whole idea of imperfection is actually a much better thing. And so what does that actually look like? Well, this is what I reckon it looks like. We start off with down the bottom here. We're thinking we've got to be perfect. And this is what the diet cycle's about. We put in rules in place and go, right, no chocolate, must exercise every day, must take my lunch to work every day. And if I break that, then you're feeling guilty. It's like, why did I do that? I'm hopeless. I'm bad. All this kind of talk comes in. And then, of course, it leads ultimately to rebellion. You go, well, stuff that. It's all too hard. Everyone puts on weight in winter. I'm going to start again in spring. I'll start again on Monday, or I'll start again in 2 weeks' time. And around you go. But this is actually kind of, I put it here, it's your comfort zone. The outcome is known. You will stuff up, you will regain weight, and you will go round. But the fact is, when you put the rules in place, it makes you think, good, I'm doing something. It gives you a sense of progress and a little bit of a sense of control. However, it's flawed. It's totally flawed, because basically all it's going to do, if you put yourself into a rigid box with missing all the things you love, you are going to break out of that. And therefore you'll feel guilty, and then you will rebel. And around and around and around you go. So what's on the other side? What is the other way of going? Well, it's breaking up here and going, okay, I'll get some freedom. Get rid of the rules. When there is no rules, then you get to make a choice. You simply get to choose what you want to eat, or you choose if you want to eat chocolate now. And people go, oh, I get very, very nervous about that because I'll always want chocolate. I'm thinking, no, you will not always want chocolate. No one wants chocolate 24 hours a day. You might be thinking of it 24 hours a day, but the reason is because you've banned it. You've got your rule down here about no chocolate. If you actually gave yourself the choice to eat chocolate if you wanted to, then you could choose whether or not you actually felt like it. Because tell me, have you ever eaten chocolate or a bit of cake or chips or whatever it was, whatever your thing is, have you ever eaten them and then just gone, oh, actually that didn't taste that great. Well, I didn't really need that. Have you ever done that? Basically, you're eating one of your banned foods when you actually didn't even feel like it. But that's what rebellion's all about. It's quite irrational. Now, the problem with this is in your mind, you're like, I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to eat a bit of chocolate. Once I do, I eat the whole block. Well, that is, again, another example of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say to yourself, I will do this, then you will. I will eat the whole pack. I will eat the whole block. Then, of course, that's what you do. But if you say, I'm perfectly capable of having 1 or 2 pieces when I feel like them, then you will be quite surprised at the control that you actually have. And so what I say to people when they go, you know what, I've really got no self-control around food. Oh, okay, so you lack self-control. Your impulse control is poor. You lack self-control. Yeah. I say, okay, so if we're talking about your next significant birthday, someone, you turning 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and someone's standing up and saying, yeah, Lisa's a lovely girl, really nice, reliable, funny, but she's not really got much self-control. And I'd be like, oh, how would that make you feel? How would it make you feel if your friend was standing up there, your partner was standing up there going, you're not a whole lot of self-control, but nice person. Would that even be true? And people go, well, no, that wouldn't be true. That's not me. I do have good control. And of course you do. But basically you're choosing not to use it around food. So this is a choice that you can make. I do have good self-control. I deserve my own trust. And basically this process here, when you're looking at imperfect, there's no rules. You make choices, which means sometimes you will have cake, sometimes you will have pizza, and it's okay because most of the time you're not doing that sort of stuff. It's just popping in occasionally when it's convenient, when you feel like it. And that makes it totally okay. That makes it perfectly imperfect. But there's this trust factor here that makes it a bit high risk. I can't do that. I feel if I haven't got rules, I'm not moving in the right direction. But let's be thinking about what your definition perhaps of the right direction is. Rules? It doesn't work. Talk to yourself about what your past experiences have been, going round and round and round in circles when you put too many rules in place. Trust me when I say you take the rules away, give yourself some freedom. Just choose. Do I really want that right now? Do I really feel like that right now? And if you can say an honest answer of, well, no, I don't feel like chocolate right after breakfast. Well, that's all good. There's a sense of control. So this is a challenging thing. I get it because of the trust factor that you may not have in yourself. But I think if you start thinking about a mantra of, I'm worthy of my trust. And I'm sure if you think, can your kids trust you? Can your partner trust you? Can your friends trust you? And I hope you're sitting there going, well, yeah, of course they can. I am trustworthy. Then you can also learn to trust you and start to go, all right, maybe I can trust myself to make good choices. And when we start to think like that, then you get the control. But only if you're expecting a little bit of imperfection, a little bit of enjoyment around food. Healthy eating and weight loss is not a punishment. So there's going to be some stuff in there that's less than healthy, but it's just because we like it, and that is okay. So this is a different headspace that you need to be embracing if you're going to be sort of moving forward. No more rules, which is kind of nice, I hope. But there's going to be the temptation to diet. How many times do you see that promise of a quick fix? People saying, whoa, lose 6 kilos in 3 weeks. And you're like, yeah, that'd be cool. I just do 3 weeks worth of hard yakka and then I'm home straight. Has it ever worked? Has it ever worked? You need to be sort of gathering the evidence and saying, really? It sounds good. And hey, it may well have worked. Lose 6 kilos in 3 weeks. What happens after 3 weeks? Did the weight come back on? Because you know what? What we know is that dieting is a predictor of future weight gain. We know that in fact 2/3 of people who go on a diet will put their weight back on and then usually more on top of that. That these diets don't work. They don't teach you anything about yourself. They don't teach you about your motivations. They don't teach you about how to cook, how to prepare food, how to plan. They don't teach you any of that. So it's kind of like a cop-out. These things, when you think you've got a good set of rules, I'm calling it a cop-out, because basically you're not wanting to do the hard stuff of practicing some self-control, practicing some preparation. Getting a bit tough here, but I really want you to resist that temptation to diet, because the promise of a quick fix, there is no such thing. There is no quick fix. There is no silver bullet. There is nothing that we have at this point that works without a whole lot of effort or a bit of change, and that's a bit scary sometimes, but it is definitely worth it. But knowing you don't have to be perfect is surely a good thing. So when you see the next celebrity diet or the next celebrity chef coming up here and saying, you can't do this, you must eat that, you may not eat this, and you'll lose weight. This is not healthy, that's healthy. Just ignore it. What you know to be healthy is healthy. But I know people are very confused, so certainly if you're thoroughly confused about what's healthy, definitely come and see me, because we can sort that out pretty quickly. But gather the evidence. Gather the evidence. Has a quick fix ever worked for you in the past? In the long term? That's what I'm talking about, the long term. Sure, they work in the short term, but has it ever worked in the long term? I'd be interested to hear. I have one of my clients, and she's been seeing me for quite a while, and she's had a long dieting history, and she's getting her head around it. She's getting her head around that no temptation, saying no to temptation to diet. She's getting her head around the whole idea of planning and taking the rules away and not expecting herself to be perfect. And she said, my sister's wedding's coming up in a few weeks, or in November. She said, normally I would be grappling and doing the best diet that I can find and stopping eating and doing all sorts of silly stuff, doing her head in, probably going to be putting weight on before the wedding. But she's still tempted. She's tempted, but she's resisting, and she's moving through that, going past that, saying, no, I know it's sensible to do it like this. And the fact is, what she said is, thank goodness I don't have to go on those diets. I'm feeling so much happier and so much more in control. So the hard work is worth ditching that diet attitude and moving on to getting some trust in yourself and avoiding those quick fixes, avoiding the temptation to diet, because you know they don't work. So motivation is around decreasing your expectations. Lower them. Perfection is absolutely not required. Rules are not required. There's some guidelines and some sort of preparation, and work is required, thought is required, but not rules, and not disappointment and not guilt. These are not part of a healthy eating regime. So avoid the temptation to diet. So what do you really need? Basically what you really need is you're not got to know what to do. You've got to actually know what is it that I do need to eat, what the healthy eating knowledge. And when I started as a dietitian 16 years ago, I thought, I'm kind of telling people what to eat here. It feels a little bit like telling them to suck eggs, because there wasn't so many freaky diets around. I'm sure there was the fads, but people kind of knew what healthy eating was. And then we had the media embracing every celebrity, chef, reporter, lawyer, who wanted to put their hand up and say, oh, I reckon this is healthy eating. I reckon, that high fat is good and saturated fat is great. And what we've been told all these years is a lie. And then someone else puts their hand up and say, well, you shouldn't be eating carbs or grains or dairy. And someone else puts their hand up and says, well, you shouldn't eat sugar. And so what we have is a whole population now of confused people. Whereas once we knew what healthy eating was, we now have no idea because the media is telling us all this crazy stuff because it's contradictory and that's what they like. But it's left a whole confused lot of people, which is really unfortunate. So I want to say to you that basically healthy eating is what it always was. A little bit of sugar is okay. You can't expect to take out all sugar. It's really not that possible. So it's meat, it's veg, it's high fiber carbohydrates. It's what you always knew to be healthy eating. You've got your everyday foods and you've got sometimes foods. And if you start to just keep it simple, then that's great. But I guess what kind of happens is we've almost got to unlearn all the new stuff that people is trying to sort of cram into our head and just go back to basics. But the media aren't that interested in that message. It's not very exciting. It's not at all controversial. So that's perhaps why you won't hear it. But common sense is still telling you that what I think is right, it is right. Everything in moderation, that kind of stuff. Pretty boring, but that's what's going to get you some inroads into stopping weight gain. If you don't start making it too hard for yourself, then you just eat well. And then we've got some accountability. And basically, it's funny because often people say to me when they come and see me and they leave and they're feeling good, but they go, oh, Lisa, I feel a bit silly. That was kind of simple and obvious. But basically, I know you guys know what to do. It's about having that accountability. When you walk with somebody or you do some exercise with someone, you're much more likely to go if someone's waiting for you because that's just kind of, I guess, human nature. So when you've got someone going, okay, how did you go? You've got that level of accountability. Your own accountability is going to step up a notch. So you definitely do need to build in accountability into any plan that you're doing in order to make it have ongoing success. And the elusive motivation. Motivation, everyone wants motivation, and it's interesting. I was doing a lot of reading about motivation a little while ago, and what I came across was a quote by an artist of all people. And he said, motivation is for amateurs. Motivation is for amateurs. Now, what that he was meaning is that if as an artist that you sit back and expect the masterpiece or that flash of blinding brilliance to happen, and then you'll be able to start, and then you will produce your magnificence. Basically, he said, if you're waiting for that to happen, you won't produce anything. Motivation comes from action, and you actually have to put something down on the page in order to produce your great work of art. And that fact, when you do that, you're going to be able to get better and twist and turn and make some adjustments and learn and get better. And the fact that you're moving in the right direction means that that action is creating the motivation. So when you're sitting back waiting to be motivated to exercise in winter, really, it's pretty warm inside and it's pretty cold outside. Where do you think that motivation is going to come from? But if you actually step out the door and go for a walk, I bet you'll come back feeling pretty cool. So you're feeling quite motivated and quite proud of yourself. So that action precedes motivation. Motivation does not come first and then you go and act. Because get real, really, I don't think anyone's going to want to go outside. Although when I'm sitting here now, it's gorgeous. So we've got some beautiful winter days happening at the moment. So action first, then you're going to get motivation. So don't expect to be motivated in winter or in summer for that matter. You got to make that happen, and having the right knowledge and a level of accountability in there will help you get that action and put that piece together so that you are moving forward in the right direction. But the question is, are you worth it? Are you actually worth this effort? What I tell people all the time is that in order to get your health right, in order to get your health on the agenda, in order to start taking action, you actually need to prioritize yourself. You actually need, I guess, to get a little selfish. And people say, oh, that's not very nice. But you have to be on the same level as everybody else in your family. And this little analogy I've got down here is what I sort of use to show people is kind of what happens. So we start down here as the sprung floor. You know, those beautiful bouncy gymnasium floors that they just return and it's gentle on your feet and they're all gorgeous and beautiful. I think this is kind of represents us when, probably before we have kids, definitely early adulthood. We've got an income. We're very important to ourselves. Our self-care, our health, our beauty routines, our looking after ourselves and our own needs are high priority. They're priority number one. We are like the beautiful sprung floor. And then we move along. It might be that the birth of a child does this. It might just be that you start to get some extra responsibilities. So you start getting pushed down the priority list a bit. Your health might drop off. It might not. We're still pretty special. Haven't got too many responsibilities. And we're sort of a bit like the shag pile rug. We're kind of like, yeah, we're not quite the sprung floor, but we're still pretty special and we still look after ourselves. But after a while, a few years down the track, when we get even more responsibilities and kids are getting older or we start to become a real mum, and we're a bit like the pub carpet. It's a bit sticky and yucky underfoot and we start thinking, oh, self-care, looking after myself, I really don't have time for that. I'm driving the kids here, I'm driving them there. I've got elderly parents. I've got a heck of a lot on my plate, plus I'm working. So we start to think about the whole idea of health, self-care, doing nice things for ourselves as really a very low priority. So we're starting to be a bit like the pub carpet, and you can see where this is going. We end up as a doormat, that we've totally and utterly forgotten how to help ourselves or how to look after ourselves because everybody else is coming first. And it reminds me of a lady who happened to be a grandmother. And we were talking about her health and I'm saying, it'd be great to get into some exercise classes. It could be very social for you or start to look after yourself and your own needs. And she's like, yes, well, that would be nice, except for the fact that I'm expected to look after my grandchildren. I don't feel that this is an option. I feel it's an expectation. So she let it get to that point whereby it was expected of her that this is what she would do. In fact, she even went as far as to say, she said, my husband even said to me the other day, what would you be if you didn't have those grandkids? So everybody in her world had assumed that this is what she wanted to do. And I guess to an extent, we let this happen to ourselves by starting to drop off the things that are important to us. And I know, well, in my own family, my mother, if I want her to babysit, it's like, yeah, well, I play golf here, I've got my exercise class here, going to the movies here, I can help you here. So she's put in these priorities, and I don't expect that to be any different. I think it's great that she's got such an active life, because that's a good thing. In my own life, I go, okay, when my kids were little, I would go to the gym and they'd say, Mum, we don't want to go to the gym, Crash. It's like, well, that's okay. It's only an hour and this is something I need to do for myself. So if that's selfish, then that's what you're going to be. You need to be selfish. You need to be saying, at least you guys and me are all on the same level. I need to be giving priority to all of your needs, but mine are up there as well. So I would encourage you, I think probably to get back to the sprung floor is a bit much, but if we're looking at getting back to shag pile, I'm important, you're important. My health is worth it. My self-care is worth it, as is yours. So, and when I say yours, I mean the other people in your life. You are not a second-class or third-class citizen in your life. Imagine if you weren't healthy. Imagine if you're not happy. How does that impact on your ability to look after others? So you really need, in order to make this work, you need to drop the need for perfection. You need to take some action and you need to say, hey, I'm important. I'm just as important as everybody else in my life. So keeping those things in mind. And I hope that you're saying now, you know what? yeah, I am worth it. So let's think about motivation. Why would you want to do this? Why would you want to stop weight gain? Why would you want to perhaps lose a bit of weight or stop winter weight gain, stop putting it on? Why would you want to come into spring or summer feeling really good instead of going, oh my goodness, I've got a whole lot of weight to lose and this is going to be hard? Because you know what we know, there's research that says, people go, yeah, everyone puts on weight in winter, but we get it off in summer. But in actual fact, you know what happens? You don't get it off in summer. There was research done that people put on 2 or 3 kilos each year and they don't take it off. And so basically, I've had a lot of people say, and all of a sudden I looked at myself and realized how much weight I'd gained. So it does actually happen that you gradually increase weight because there's no stopping point, and perhaps winter is that critical time to be putting that chock behind the wheel and going, no more. I'm not just going to be rolling on with my weight. So, but why would you want to? What do you actually want to do? It's something that's quite a personal reason. So it's, I guess the other thing is that we look at feeling. So there's reasons why we want to lose weight, but there's also the feeling that we get when we're in control. So how do you feel when you're in control? Can you remember a time when you were kicking goals? It might not have been about weight loss. It might have been at work. It might have been in your parenting. It may have been in your running the house. That you just felt, wow, I'm doing this really well. I feel in control. I feel like I'm just stepping up and doing what I feel I should be doing. It's a really nice feeling because what's missing is that guilt in your head. When there's no guilt, then you have a beautiful, clear head. But compare this to when you're feeling out of control, which you might be feeling right now in the middle of winter where your weight might be going up or you're just not doing what you want it to do. That's not such a good feeling. So here's a reason that you might get motivated is it's like, I like feeling in control. If you're a person who's organized and you're really disorganized with your food, then that is going to be, you're out of alignment with what you really want to be doing. And that's where you get that feeling of, ugh, I don't like this feeling. There's also thinking about reasons and thinking about why. I mean, it could be an event that you go, like this client I was saying who's got a wedding. It's a motivator. I don't love it as a motivator because it's got an end point. And anything with an end point on motivation, like an event or a holiday, means that you'll probably stop. So it's a little bit of a motivator, but it's not one that I love. So perhaps try not to put that too much there. But there's a story about a mother who when she was pregnant, she said to her tummy and to her newborn baby when he was born, I'm going to be the best mum that I can be for you. And basically, time went on and she was doing a good job. But when it came to be, he was about somewhere between 2, 3 or 4, and it was time to do swimming lessons. And then all of a sudden there was a problem because she didn't feel comfortable in bathers. So her child wasn't getting swimming lessons. And she had to stop and go, oh, I made this promise that I would be the best mum I could be. And yet at the moment, I don't feel I'm doing that. So very much out of line with her values or what she wanted to be. So be thinking about, why would you want to stop this winter weight gain? Why would you want to be feeling fitter and healthier? What do you want to do? Or alternatively, what is that off-putting thing that you go, anything but that? I don't want that. For me, this reminds me of a time when I was studying to become a dietitian and I was at uni. And so I was working doing uni during the day and especially placements all day. And so I didn't have the opportunity that I had to exercise previously. As a teacher, I could exercise a bit earlier on in the evening and that was all good. So what had to happen was I had to set a goal and say, right, I'm going to exercise in the morning. It was probably 2 or 3 mornings a week. I can't exactly remember, but I do remember the stress that was going on in my head each time I tried to do this. So I'd wake up and the alarm would go off and I'd be like, ugh, it's cold outside. I'm tired. I don't want to do this. And I'd be rolling. It's almost like the angel and devil were arguing in my head. And I'd be thinking, I don't want to get out there. But the thing that actually got me every time was I'd say, well, what do you want to do, Lisa? Do you want to just get up and go, or do you want to sit all day listening to yourself paying out, going, why didn't you exercise? I wish I had exercised. You should have exercised. I hate that voice in my head. I hate it. So that gets me moving every time. If I go, even now, if I think, I go to the gym one night after work and say, oh, I can't be bothered. I've worked hard, blah, blah. I want to just go and sit on the couch. And I go, really? You'll be sitting on the couch going, well, you could have gone to the gym and then sat on the couch and felt really good about it. So that is my off-putter, and that's what I find quite motivating. Absolutely, I like maintaining weight. I like looking like I look like. So there's those sorts of things as well, saying, yeah, okay, you're not going to get that without doing something. So there is that as a motivator, but there's also that idea of if I've said I'm going to do something or I want to do something, then not doing it has that awful voice in my head that really, really puts me off. So I would encourage you to be thinking about what is it that you don't want to do. And I was talking to a client and talking about this and sort of she wanted to travel. It's like, that's very cool. In order to travel, do you need fitness? Well, yeah, I do need fitness, of course. So there's a bit of a motivator. But the thing also that was the off-putter for her there was like, I do not want to be the last person in that tour group. That for her was something that she did not want to do. So the whole idea of that being her was quite an off-putter and a motivator in itself there. So I'd be encouraging you, I hope, while we're talking, that you'd be thinking about what is it that's actually going to motivate me? What do I want? And what's my off-putter? What don't I want? What I don't want? And you can make it about something like traveling or not being the last person in the group, or you can make it about, I just feel better when I feel organized. I like feeling in control. I don't like having that whingy headspace where my guilty conscience is annoying me all the time. So attach it to something. What do you find that you're motivated by? What do you find that's putting you off? And get something down on paper there. I hope that you have done that. So what do we got to do? We've got to make it easy, not amazing. And I think this comes into the perfection, imperfection stuff. It's all very well to have this amazing diet plan where you've got to have activated almonds and you have special grains grown in ancient Egypt. These are kind of things that sound wonderful, but they're not real easy. So can you imagine doing that and putting all these ingredients together at the end of a busy day? This is my bugbear. People go, oh, have you got some recipe ideas? I'm like, I'm sitting here at my desk. I've got 20 recipe books behind me. The only time I ever open them is to work out the recipe for lemon slice or apple crumble, the topping for that. That's the only time I use a recipe book. The other times I'm like, I just want to put a meal on the table reasonably quickly. So do you really need recipes, or is that just another sort of thing that's stopping you? Let's not get too crazy about simple, healthy eating. If you're having a bit of meat, if you eat meat or your vegetarian equivalent, a bit of carbohydrate, be that pasta, rice, potato, quinoa, that kind of stuff, and half a plate of veg, you're doing good. You can make that up as a stir fry. You can make it as a casserole. You can whack it on the plate like that. There are lots of different ways that you can do that, and I'm sure it's probably what you already do when you're well planned. We did have a talk as dietitians from Gabriel Gatte once, and he gave us a useful tip about introducing new recipes. If you really think, yeah, I want to introduce some new recipes, then what you do is basically you choose one that you like the sound of, and then you put that into your rotation. What I find is everyone's really got, about a 2-week rotating menu, and that's okay. We've got about 14 different recipe ideas or meal ideas, and that's okay. And you might have less, you might have more, all good. But if you're wanting more, then you choose one and you put it into the rotation and you cook it. You cook it once a week for a month, and you add your little tweaks and twists and see if it's acceptable to the family. Is it easy? Does it fit in to our routine? Do we all like it? Then cool. it stays in. There's another recipe. And then in the next month, you can go for a second one if you think you need. But having a total overhaul of your diet and looking at lots of recipe ideas is only going to really procrastinate you actually doing anything. Because when you're busy, you need quick and easy, not amazing. And I've touched a little bit on sugar, but does it matter if it has sugar? No. Sugar is really, it's in things, it's in just about everything. And the reason it's in everything is not always just as a sweetener. It also has properties that color foods and the mouth feel and the consistency and the shelf life. So sugar is actually a really important ingredient in the food manufacturing industry. And when we try and take it out, we start using artificial sweeteners or other sorts of things. It doesn't taste the same. It doesn't taste as good. So let's get some common sense back into sugar. So they might add sugar as a preservative into a tin of tomatoes. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Now, if you're choosing Fruit Loops over porridge, then really, well, that's not going to be useful. We don't need to be having extra sugary products where we don't need it. But if you're putting a little bit of sugar on your porridge, that is totally okay. Have a think about what the base food is. Now, if it's a sweet biscuit, well, it's a sometimes food. If it's a jar of pasta sauce, well, it's something that you can use every day if you needed to, and that's okay. So what is it that you are actually talking about with the sugar content? So again, people get really quite head up about yogurt. So I guess a bit of a guide there. I say, okay, if it's less than 15 grams of sugar per 100 grams, then that's going to be okay. That allows for probably a little bit of sweetener in there and a little in the fruit, if there's fruit in there. If you prefer the Greek yogurt or the natural yogurt with no sugar, then brilliant. But if you're avoiding yogurt because you can't have any sugar, then you're missing out on a healthy food and a great snack. So go back to common sense. Go back to common sense when it comes to sugar. If it's a sugary tasting product, then maybe it's a sometimes food. If it's something that's actually quite savory and healthy and it has a little bit of sugar, that's okay. It is totally okay. So don't stress. Let's not make it too hard to eat well. So if you're thinking about putting veggies in, how many veggies can I put in here? We're aiming for 5 different ones a day. So where can I add vegetables in? That's going to be a good investment in your thinking time. Whole grains and high fiber. And when you're looking at carbohydrates, it's a massive range. Carbohydrates go from lollies, soft drinks, biscuits, all the way up to high fiber, whole grain cereals. It's a big gamut of a food group. And yeah, so there's sometimes foods and everyday foods within the one food group. If you're wanting to know a foolproof way of choosing a carbohydrate, basically what you do is you look at dietary fiber per 100 grams and you choose the product that's the highest. Now, dietary fiber only is around carbohydrate foods, so you won't find it on meat. You won't find it on dairy, but you'll find it on your cereals, your muesli bars, your dry biscuits, and what you're looking for is high fiber. The one that's the highest in dietary fiber will generally be the lowest in sugar, the lowest in calories, and the best for you. So if you don't like reading labels because you get confused or it takes time, that's one simple, easy snapshot. What's the highest one in dietary fiber per 100 grams? Compare them and you will be getting the best carbohydrate you can. Your plan needs to be doable. Easy, not amazing. Make it doable. If you're saying, I'm currently doing no exercise and I should be doing the gym 7 nights a week after work or 5 nights a week after work and on the weekends, really make it doable. So make it a bit fun, make it varied, make it realistic, make it doable. The same thing with your food. You don't have to be preparing a MasterChef worthy dish every day. I've often said to people, you know what, when I was in a hurry, I would often take a peanut butter sandwich. That meant that I didn't buy food out. That meant that I ate on time, and that meant that it didn't fall over me in the car if I was having to have the food in the car. Make it doable. You can put a peanut butter sandwich together very quickly. You can put a salad sandwich together quite quickly too. That's my new one. It's basically got a slice of cheese, avocado, beetroot and tomato, sometimes spinach. Bang, there you go. It's a quick, easy lunch that's healthy. So I don't have to be putting together, steaming chicken and making a salad. That's not going to happen. Make it doable. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to be something that you can actually do. And challenge your excuses. Really, what you need to be doing is not just listening to the first thing that comes into your mind, which might be, I'm too tired, it's too cold, I'm not motivated, I deserve a rest. Challenge those excuses, because basically that's what they are, and they're just stopping you from making forward movement. So challenging your excuses looks like when you're saying I'm tired or I'm not motivated, I don't want to do it, then you continue the conversation with yourself. Challenging excuses is about talking to yourself, basically. Some think it's a sign of madness. I encourage you to go for it. I think it's a sign of a stage of making you get motivated and get some action happening. So instead of stopping at I'm tired, you take the conversation further. And you go, yeah, well, I am tired, but if I went for a quick 20-minute walk now, I reckon I might get a bit more energy. That might actually spur me on, and that might spark me up for the rest of the evening. There's the continuation of the conversation. I want this pie. I don't want to eat the sandwich I bought. Well, it might be that, look, it is a cold day. Maybe if I go and grab a cup of soup or a tin of soup to have with my sandwich, or if I toast my sandwich, that might be providing the warmth I need. And I'll feel a lot better if I've eaten that than if I've eaten a pie. Because you know what? I might have had a pie on Saturday, and you don't need to be having too much of these kind of foods. So listening to what you're saying and taking them a step further, looking at what motivates you and what puts you off, put those things into that conversation. That's what challenging your excuses looks like. So let's have a look. This is where the work comes in now. This is where we start to be thinking about what you want to do. What is it that you want to change? What is it that's currently causing you a bit of angst, a bit of guilt, a bit of disappointment? What do you think that you might want to do? And what do you want to change? So that's the first thing to be looking at. So what will that look like? So if you're wanting to increase your exercise or get back to what you were doing, or start a program, start something going, what's that going to look like? How many days a week do you think you're going to be doing this? How long for? What will you be doing? Making it realistic, because, let's talk easy, doable, not amazing. If it looks amazing, great, but it's only amazing if you can do it. If it only just looks amazing, it's not helpful. So be thinking about the things that you need to change. And when you go, some people might be saying, I need to change everything. You don't need to change everything. Often people, if you want to have breakfast and that could be your goal, then what do you need to what is that going to look like? What will you eat? What does it mean you've got to do to make sure that happens? Do you need to put a bowl out the night before to remind yourself? Do you need to get up earlier? If you're wanting to take your lunch to work because you want to decrease takeaway food, how are you going to do that? How many days are you going to do that? What are you going to prepare? What do you need to do to make sure that happens? What's going to get in your way? If you are setting yourself a goal to walk when you get home, and every time you get home you sit down on the couch and you don't walk, then that's obviously going to get in your way. How do you get around that? And it could be that you say to yourself in the car, right, I'm going for my walk. I'm not sitting down. I'm going to put my keys down, change my shoes and go. You start to rev yourself up in order to do that. It could also be that you go, well, hang on, let me get smart about this. I'll take my runners to work. If I can't walk at lunch, then I'll walk when I finish work before I get into the car. So I'll walk then so that when I do get home, I can go and sit down. Or if I'm going to the gym, I'll take my stuff with me. I won't go home, that kind of stuff. How do you get around the stuff that's going to get in your way? So I don't want you to take off massive amounts of things to have a to-do list that's as long as your arm. That's not doable. So take some little chunks. It's not likely that your whole day is not good or needs changing. Pick the part that you reckon you can challenge now and that you can change now. Don't make it too hard. Don't make it too big, because I want you to just start some action now that you can achieve. So I hope that you're taking some time, and given that this is a video, you can pause it, you can stop it and write down what your goals are. What are you going to do tomorrow? After listening to this video, what are you going to do that actually is going to make a difference to you? And how's that going to be looking? That's what I'd encourage you to do. Now, if you need some help with that, basically I can help you out. What I've got is a special offer for your winter weight loss. And if you're thinking, yeah, I need a bit more accountability, then this is probably something that's going to work really well for you. What you got here is I've got online modules, and basically that goes through motivation, it goes through emotional eating, it goes through goal setting, it goes through how to decrease your portion size. So there's 7 modules you can work through, and each one has a workbook that goes with it, so it helps you to be sort of pinpointing those important parts. Now that normally is for $300, so that's pretty good value there. Then also in this pack is 2 30-minute, like either face-to-face, Skype or phone reviews. So 2 of those where you get to check in over an 8-week period. That's valued at $130. You get 8 weekly accountability emails. So you get an email each week, you'll email me back, and we will make sure that you are staying on track. So that's got accountability built in. You'll also get a copy of my book if you haven't already. If you've already got one, you can give it away. And if you haven't got one, then that just supports everything that we're going to be trying to be doing over here. And basically, what is the value in keeping control of your health and your weight? I mean, if you're going out of winter feeling fantastic and feeling in control, I don't know, maybe in the words of Visa, that's kind of priceless, isn't it? So that's kind of $600 worth of value, and basically what I'm selling it for is $250. So if you really want to move forward and you're getting serious and you've decided, you know what, I am worth it, then please check it out. You can email me after this, you get this video, and just say yes please, and I can send you the link. You can see the link down here. It'd be lovely if it comes up in the video that you can click on it. I'm not sure if the technology works that way, but you can certainly put that into your browser, and that's thebodywarfare.com.au/webinar offer. So you could put that in there if that was something that you wanted to be looking at. And I would encourage you, if you're struggling, that this will definitely help you through that. And if it doesn't, if you're not happy with it, I'll happily give you money back. So it comes with that guarantee of, not a guarantee of weight loss, but a guarantee of you being in control and feeling like you've got your value for money. So certainly if you're interested in that, go to that website or just send me an email and I can send you the link if it's not going to work. I really hope that this webinar or this video has gone some of the way to helping you stop winter weight gain. So it's talking, if we recap, it's looking at, don't expect perfection. Imperfect is perfect. If you take the rules away and learn to trust yourself that you'll make the right decision, then that is the step that you need to take. If you brace yourself and steel yourself against that temptation to diet, making sure that you are just making some plans that are doable, and reflecting back, holding yourself accountable on those excuses. Think about the things that are motivating you and what might put you off, and be moving forward. It can be a bit of a struggle, so if you're interested, please let me know, and I'll be very happy to hold you accountable to your plans. Thank you for listening, and I would love to hear from you, so please email me at any time, lisa@lisawren.com. Thank you guys, and I will see you sometime soon.